SEO training, learn how to rank #1 on Google in 2022. In this video, we will be covering a magnitude of different questions with my friend Ted Kabitis, the creator of Cora, SEOtools.com, right?
SEO Tool Lab.
SEOtoollab.com, correct?
Correct.
And that's Cora. Perfect. And it's Ted Kabitis. Hopefully, I'm well aware. I would think that everybody knows who you are, Ted. Also, IMG. I'm a trainer over there. He also has some trainings there as well. They do testing. So that's at the internetmarketing.gold. So I'm a teacher there. It's not promotion. Everyone knows them there already. So really, I asked you here today to ask some questions, see how you were doing, see if there's any new tools. And I guess, we got the introduction stuff out of the way. I want to just get to the tips. The first one, I guess, just to kick off the bat, because I know you're a technical guy, is how important do you think schema is?
I put it in tiers. There's a lot of different beliefs around schema right now because there's not a ton of testing out there. There's some from SIA, but largely there's not a lot of testing. So what I like to do is I like to tell people to prioritize schema. And the way that I prioritize schema is I tell people that they should first consider anything that affects the presentation of your website and search. So I'm talking product schema, your aggregate rating stars, just any of those parts of schema that will affect how you present.
Yep. So anything that shows up,
enhancements.
Yeah.
And the reason you want to prioritize those is because they're no-brainers. Getting those aggregate stars to show up just gets you click-through rate. It's like the best CRO thing you can do for online retail. They're easy to justify to the business. You can say, look, you can see the difference.
For sure. That's right.
Next, right under that, I would do any of the schema markup that is for sharing. So your Twitter cards, your open graphs, anything that affects the presentation about how your content appears when someone shares it. Very important. Also, make sure if you're blocking bots you don't recognize, a lot of those bots you don't recognize are going to be platforms trying to get your open graph card. Makes sense. If you're blocking, Skype bot and Facebook bot and these other bots, you might be stopping people from sharing.
Right. Don't want to do that.
The next layer of schema that I would put third, so the third priority schema, is anything that's talking about accountability. So who the business is, the address of the business, the operating hours, the author of the post, any schema that is accountability related, that's third priority. And it's just being honest as you can with the search engines. And so that one, it's harder to justify an ROI, but it makes sense that it would be some sort of a trust signal to somebody. And then at the fourth level, I would put all the speculative SEO. So all of same as shenanigans and all of that stuff. The reason you put that speculative schema fourth is because it's the hardest to justify and defend to the client. If it doesn't work out, why were you putting billable hours into
spending time? I'm always that time and budget. That's SEO. That's all it comes down to right there. Those two things,
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying you have to prioritize what's going to have the biggest impact, what's going to be easy to defend to any client. And you probably want to get your ducks in a row anyway. So you probably want those other three categories working before you go into the experimental and speculative stuff. Otherwise, you don't know which part is contributing what.
That's right. I have a nice little batch here. I'm hoping to get well, I have you right. So
Sure.
the next thing, if I jump around, don't mind me. It's I'm really I'm trying to get tips, as many tips to help these guys rank and gals as possible. While I have a genius.
Well, you wanna know how I was an in-house SEO and I just climbed the corporate ladder and under a year became the highest paid employee at the company and became a director at the executive table?
Do I want to know?
Yeah, do you want to know how to do that in SEO?
No, no.
Okay, all right, next topic.
Oh. Next topic is what do you think about sending links to the IP address at scale? Why am I seeing a friend of mine in, is he doing it for fun, just joking with me? He's sending a massive amount of links, A, to the actual search result, like the Google URL, and B, to his IP. Why would he do this?
All right, so describe that again. So he's sending traffic or links. Can you repeat that?
Yep, backlink. So he has let's start with the query. So he has an actual Google query, right? Let's say it's best crypto wallets,
All
okay?
right,
Or
so he
bet
searched for it.
he searched for it in Google, got the string, and he's sending links to the string. Why would he do that? For what reason?
Um, there are a few things that people do. Oftentimes, it's to either create associations with entities or it's to get something to rise in terms of the autocomplete suggestions. And so if he can make an autocomplete suggestion popular enough, and if it's one that he ranks well in, then he could get a net win if Google suggests that the most. And
So
I've seen people create ads from Facebook and things of that nature to play those types of games. The other area I've seen that in is a lot more technical, and it has to do with pairing a brand name with a specific entity to get Google to relate the two.
yep, that definitely.
But that's a lot more technical.
I was able to achieve this, right? But I did it at scale, and I think duplicating it more than 4 or 5 times has been difficult. So you think you have the process and you're like, oh, it's to become an entity, I have to create entities, right? Images, video, audio, at scale. And if I'm able to associate my brand name with specific keywords and I start seeing my photo in the images, like the box, the entity box, I notice that I rank for those keywords, right? Is this kind of the objective?
Yeah, if you can control what's appearing in the auto suggestions, then you have this ability to short circuit short tail keyword. So what often happens with the auto suggest is people start to type in pink ribbon bracelet. All right, so they intend on typing all three words, but by the time they get to pink RI, Google is already suggesting things. And Google might suggest pink ribbon, they might suggest pink ribbon earrings, pink ribbon necklace. And then all of a sudden, you can poach that short tail traffic that wanted to type in three words but ended up typing in one and a half. And if you can get it to be, one of the other ones that you rank well for, maybe you can get in front of that person. So it's trying to exploit the auto suggest in order to steal traffic from other keywords.
So that's the part I left out when I asked the question. That's what he's adding other keywords into the phrase. Like I noticed when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, why is
Yeah,
this? He's putting
because
me on, but not too much.
because if you take a keyword, if you say that, oh, I'm doing, electrician Seattle, I'm trying for, but then I'm doing, Hartford and Sons, which is the brand right after it, nobody's going to type it, but you put enough search volume in it, it'll be the first suggestion that people go to.
Makes
And
sense.
so it's a way of tricking people into viewing your keyword instead of what they intended.
Fair enough. And then what do you think about, do you think that this is just he's pulling yanking my leg? Why would I be sending backlinks to the IP address?
I'm not so sure on what they hope to gain by doing that. So, backlinks to an IP address, I would want to see how that server is configured, what content comes up when you visit that URL. I had to deal with a website earlier today that had misconfigured domain hosting on the web server. And so two domains were serving the same content, and Google was indexing the wrong domain. And so you can misconfigure a server. And if somebody is trying to do that to an IP address, if real content is showing up, it might be a negative SEO attack. You might be trying to build PageRank to the IP address to get your actual domain URLs de-indexed is lower PageRank duplication. So I would look very closely at what's coming back on those IPs.
Interesting. Yep. Okay. Something that you did that I was totally blown away by. I thought it was genius because I started thinking to myself, if there's 100+ areas that a keyword can index, what I started playing with was A, getting the list, B, figuring out where the places were. And then next, what I was doing is getting the exact phrase, the partial phrase, the entities, and the co occurring key phrases, and putting one in each of those areas to figure out, will this rank? Have you gone to each of the places and stuffed a keyword and saw positive or negative results? And theoretically, would that work?
Yeah, you have to get into some pretty complicated testing to do this at scale, like to test the entire HTML5 specification. And it just so happens that I've done that. I've
Yeah.
tested every single tag and attribute in the HTML specification. I found out which tags you can get content indexed in. I
Awesome.
found out which tags you can do keyword stuffing in and get bonuses from keyword density. And the rules have changed. Like, we've been actually collecting data on this for years now. And so we can go back in time through our archives and see when things worked and when things stopped working. And so there was a time in the past where if you put a keyword in your meta keywords tag, the tag that SEOs all hate for no reason, but if you put your keyword in that tag, there was a time when you could get indexed for that. And if you did keyword stuffing in that, it would help you rank better.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah, what
Kind of
people
like
don't
saying nice.
realize is when that stopped working was only about a year and a half ago. It worked for a long, long time, and it was only recently that it stopped. This notion of certain parts of the page you can't get indexed on and you can't keyword stuff in, it's very new. It's only about a year old. And the things that went away are most of the parts of the head block do nothing. Like your meta description is a no index zone.
Right.
Now, it's still beneficial to tune it because we see that in the data. But if you put a test keyword in a meta description and then let Google crawl and index everything and then search for that test keyword, it's not going to appear. Google won't index it. So zones like that are kind of counterintuitive. A lot of HTML attributes are no index now. Before, the title attribute on links that would create the tooltip when you hover over a link,
Yep. Yep.
that's a no index zone. So you put a unique keyword in there and try to find it, it's not going to work out well.
Well,
Image alt text does work. So that's an interesting one. And there are 7 or so tags in the HTML specification where you can cloak content. So if you want to go black hat,
We do.
this is one of those things. There are 7 tags in the HTML specification that are do index, and you can do keyword stuffing in to get a keyword density boost that just work. And they shouldn't. Like the no script tag used to be one, but it's not. But some of them are like the canvas tags, the Ruby related tags, the object tag still works. And so, yeah, I mean, there's these just simple and elegant ways to cloak just built right into the HTML specification. And so now we have, because of all of this, we actually have a new kind of Google update. And so I like to talk about how there are different kinds of updates. So there's the algorithm update where Google changes, how important is authority versus relevance, and they change the weighting. Then there are HTML updates where Google says, oh, we're going to change the formatting of the search results, and all your rank trackers break. And you think that you've lost all your rankings, even though when you manually verify, nothing's changed. There's those kinds of updates. There's meta blending updates where Google changes the nature of blending different searches together, because Google is a meta search engine. And one example of that was when they put in featured snippet at the top, and they're blending ads and local results and news results. And then they went in later and they said, oh, page 1 is only going to have 9 organic results instead of 10.
Yay.
That was a meta blending update. They stole 10% of everybody's page 1 rankings, and nobody even knew to complain. So there's another type of update. But these no index zones, now we have zoning updates. Google can change which parts of the page are capable of doing what for indexing. And so now we got to look and keep our eye on, how does that zoning change over time?
Are you seeing massive fluctuations with that?
We did all at once, because they killed comments, they killed keywords and scripts, they killed keywords and style sheets, they killed keywords and non-standard attributes, and they killed a ton all at once.
Right.
And then going forward, you had to have your keywords in the right areas. You couldn't do the fringe SEO to get ahead that was so popular.
Right. Still popular.
It's
Kind
still popular, but people don't know it
Changing.
doesn't work at the moment. They're hoping that Google forgets and it rolls back, which it might, and Google's done that before.
How I know that you did a lot with e-commerce. How versed are you with, say, the Google guarantee?
It was the Google shopping programs kind of came in towards the end of my tenure in online retail. So it's been about 7 years since I've been in online retail. Prior to that, I was an in-house SEO for a large online retailer for about 17 years. And that funny question where I said, you want to know how I did it? Well, here's how I did it, because I don't want to deny people. I know some people said they wanted to know. So the way you rise to the top as an in-house SEO is you make sure that the business has multiple websites. And if they don't, if they're a one website wonder, make sure you clone it on a second brand and make it unique. And just tell them, we're just going to hedge our bet with the second property, and worst case scenario, they'll both rank at the top. You make a safe place for you to fail. All right. You make a place where you can experiment and you can learn your craft. Because right now, most SEOs watching, they do client SEO. And if they make a big mistake, they're fired.
Absolutely.
And if the next big mistake causes you to be fired, you're not going to learn very fast. You're going to be too afraid to try anything, especially new things, and to adapt to change. So you have to find a safe place to fail. For me, the company had 15 online stores. So I took the smallest online store and I ran experiments on it. It'd go up, it would go down. I'd do horrible things, I'd do wonderful things. But the important part was anytime I had a big success, that went out to the other 14 stores.
Yeah, of course.
And I did that for 17 years, double digit growth year after year for 17 years. By the end of the first year, I was commission based, I was highest paid employee, and it there are problems that come with that, but that's how you do it. You create a safe place to fail, and you only propagate success, and then very quickly you become one of the most important people to the business. And all SEOs should try to replicate that. And it was that experience that really got me into testing. I was testing, I just didn't know I was SEO testing.
Me
I
too.
thought I was just putting money in my pockets, but the thing I was doing was testing, and I learned stuff. I knew things that nobody else knew. And that's why testing is so important. I wasn't, I tried the whole thing where I read the blogs and I believe the biggest names. And the thing about that is I believe that all the influencers, they're trying to tell you things that they know work, or at least they worked at one point in time. But the only way you will know is if you prove it for yourself. There is nothing they can say, there is nothing I can say that will ever beat you proving it for yourself. And once you get even just two or three things proven for yourself, you start saving tons and tons of time and energy, because you'll have those fundamentals. You'll go, okay, I know there's a fundamental truth. When I tested keyword density, I was able to rank pages that were all the way up to 75, 80% keyword density. Google does not care about that. They're not going to penalize that. I find an article that says, yeah, Google will punish you because they're too smart if you try to go above 4% keyword density. I don't need to read the rest of this article. They violated a fundamental truth I've proven for myself. So you can start to filter. Then all of a sudden you hit a rare article where they start saying things like, oh, yeah, that was like the thing I just tested. I wonder what else. Oh, hey, that was just like that other thing I tested and figured out. What about this? Whoa, I've never seen that before. All of a sudden you can spot the gold from the crap that's online. And there's a ton of crap online. So not only was I, printing money into my pockets doing this testing, but I was able to just filter out the crap so fast. And it doesn't take a lot. You learn, 3, 4, 5 fundamental truths that you've proven for yourself, and you can start shutting down most blog posts.
100%. I agree. So did so it's been a long time since you've been in there, and local's not really your bag per se. You're primarily focused on testing at this point, right? And building tools, obviously.
Yeah. The bulk of my SEO experience was in-house online retail. I do know a bit about local. I do know that all the latest research says that on page is just as important for local as it is for doing national terms. So a lot of what I know is applicable, but there are better local experts in SEO than me.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, that Google guarantee has been plaguing me. There's certainly a separate algorithm for that, even though it's a paid deal. It's a very valuable place to be in that first spot and guarantee. you
Now,
know,
is that feature like when you type in DUI lawyer Los Angeles? They
the
have,
green checks.
yeah, all the
Yeah,
lawyers that are in the program. You just bypass the search results
Yep, you're past maps, past organic, past the ads. You're literally at the top, above ads even.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
that's the spot.
that's paid, right?
Yep, it's paid, but you can't pay more to get to the top spot. There's a 1, 2, 3 there, and there's an algo there, but we're trying to figure out, well, what's hint for the group, right? Like, how do you get in there? You know, that's what
Yeah,
we're trying to figure out right now.
haven't tested that, so
Oh,
that
it's
one I'm
really
afraid
easy.
I'm in the dark on.
That's hey, what do you attribute? Because I get this one a lot. I know I see questions here, but I'm really recalling things of my own questions and other things that I get a lot. And what do you attribute in the simplest answer? Um, what do you think the main algorithm update was last time that still seems to be going on? That's troubling indexing. I get that one so much lately. That's why I'm asking.
All right. Well, if we go back to November and we talk about that Q4, I mean, largely what happened there was approaching Black Friday, Google ramped up the importance of off page and authority.
Mm,
And Walmart and Target and Amazon and all the big authority sites rose to the top. And all the small and medium businesses took a ranking hit just before their most important sales weeks. And so at that point, there's nothing you can do. You know, is well, at least that's what's going through these businesses' minds. Like, we can't do anything; it's too short notice. So I guess we're gonna double down on pay per click and advertising spend.
yep.
And that's how Google breaks their Q4 records year after year as they pull that lever. And then between Christmas Eve and New Year's, we saw those off-page boosts come back down, and relevancy took back over, and we are outside of Q4. So I think what you saw there was Google pulling the lever to make money.
Just like every year,
Yeah,
really. It's the
yeah.
same cycle, it seems.
And so what I predict for next year is Google's going to have a massive update heading towards Black Friday. Why would they not? They made billions more pulling that lever.
Awesome. So, what's really, maybe I'm definitely not as advanced as you are, but something I've been noticing is what I do is simply just scrape the entities out of a site and literally add them, not the actual entities that I see, but the same number. So if I scrape the top 3 competitors, pull out the entities, and this one has 20, this one has 20, and this one has 20, right? That's 60 divided by 3. Okay, I need to get 30 within my content, right? This is what I do. So how important though are the entities within the sites, the topic of the sites, and the links that are coming in?
Well,
Um,
you have to be careful because not all entities are beneficial. So let's say you're a plumber, Seattle Plumbing, and you say, well, I'm going to go to the entity database directly, Wikipedia, go to their plumbing page and pull all the entities. Well, they talk about, the origin of the word and lead and Roman aqueducts and, a lot of things you don't want on your Seattle Plumbing page.
right, for sure.
Um, so you really want to be selective and make sure that the collection of entities groups you into a topic that you want to be in, and that topic shouldn't be Roman history. And the next thing is that there's 2 dimensions. It's not a one-dimensional thing. There are 2 dimensions. There's entity diversity, where how many different entities are you using? It's not about using the same 375 times each. You want to
Right.
have some diversity. And then at some point, it is about how many times are you using them, but you want to go wide before you go deep. So I would focus on relevant diversity of entities first, and then go deep on the really important ones.
Oh, so you think so I have the first part right, getting the amount. I didn't think though of okay, now let's get a higher density of the entities now. So
Yeah,
not
and
just being diverse, but maybe even repeating a few,
yeah,
right?
and you have to be careful with your workflow because you're getting into a level of page optimization where the order in which you do things can really cause a problem. So at some point, you'll want to tune your exact match keyword density and your variant keyword density. The variant keywords are those words that Google makes bold when you search for your target term. Google saying, look how relevant the results are by bolding those variations. And so we collect those and measure those because those are the words that make your page relevant for the target keyword. So at some point, you want to tune for keyword density. But if you tune for keyword density first and then you tune your page for entities, you're going to mess up your keyword density and you're going to end up having to do that work twice. So you want to plan out all the work you intend to do to a page and make sure you do it in the right order so you don't have one mess up the other.
Well, that brings me okay. That's an interesting thought. So what you would take care of so the first thing is taking care of word count, take care of the amount of headings, figure out how many headings have the keyword in them, figure out the match words, the bolds, right?
Yep.
And then the exacts and the partials, right? Get that density up, and then you would move into entities.
Well, I would keep keyword density last because just about everything you do on page is gonna
Yeah,
alter keyword density. And so we find that keyword density, when properly tested, will actually sort your test cases by density descending. So it's really
interesting.
spooky to see it happen. And we've tested pages ranging from like 2% keyword density all the way up to 95% keyword density. Google was fine with indexing all of them, and they sorted them by density descending. And we were like, well, what if it's just the match count? What if it's the number of times you used it? So we added in test cases where we had 1,000, 2,000, all the way up to like 7,000 exact match keywords, but we kept those test cases all at 10% keyword density. They all slotted in right where
Right in
10%
order.
should be. So it's not how many times you use a keyword, it actually is the ratio of the keyword to the overall word count. Um, and it's very important that you consider that. It's one of the easiest ways to get a quick boost
For up
is to
1,000,000%.
fix it. And there's this weird thing we see when people like prune content on a page. You know, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, prune content, it went up for me," and you get other people about
I like to add.
50% say, "Oh, I prune content in my page tank." Well, why is it so 50-50? Well, if you take, a selection of text off the page, you're affecting your keyword density probably in a random way.
For sure. Well, and then
So,
too, I think the areas matter.
yeah, so if you're not being mindful of keyword density and you prune the content, you're really just rolling the dice as to whether or not it goes up or down.
For sure.
So be mindful with how you prune content, and it can work. You can outrank skyscraper content with lower word count, higher density. That's the good news. You don't have to compete with that 30-page article in that way. And so I think for that reason, that's one thing that Google actually did well is keyword density as a factor, as a relevancy factor, helps you get to the point and keep it small.
Absolutely. Um, so I wanna uh, so did you ever in those areas that we know index, did you ever just put a keyword or an entity or a co-occurring phrase in any of those in all those places and it worked? For
Yeah, yeah,
it works.
absolutely. And for the record, I'm going to go ahead and mention a four-letter word to this community: LSI. LSI is just a term that SEOs created early on. We co-opted it inappropriately to mean, co-occurring words that appear on pages that rank well. That's all it means. And it's a relevancy thing. So if anybody is out there telling you that co-occurring phrases from the pages that rank well is not a thing in SEO, they don't know what they're talking about.
I agree.
So it's just a name. What that whole debate is about is just somebody doesn't like what it's called. And that's fine. You want to call it co-occurring phrases on pages that rank well, fine. It's the exact same thing by a different name. Don't tell me your name works and mine is, filthy web spam thing to rip people off.
I like
the
to mix them up.
thing.
Yeah, I like to mix them up. Sometimes I'll throw out LSI, sometimes co-occurring. It depends. It's fun.
Yeah, I see people being afraid to say LSI because some big voices came out being negative, and it's like, no, that's stupid. It
Oh yeah,
should
yeah.
there be a better name, sure, but it shouldn't be co-occurring phrases on pages that rank well. You need a better name than that. So if you
Yeah.
want to rename it, you have my blessing, but it can't
Come up
be
with something cooler. Yeah.
it can't be a bad name.
So
Um,
you
there was a question before this. What was that? Do you recall?
Oh, my question before that was so I noticed that there is a tool out in the marketplace. Um, I forget the name of it. That's irrelevant. But I know that they're using Google's API for the NLP. But what they're looking at is the topic of the links of the sites. Do you really think that the overall, like, if that topic and the backlinks that are coming in, do you think that that's how do you pull that data?
Well, you'd have to use statistics. You'd have to do correlation, and you'd have to see, is there any effect? But
Is
we
he
we
looking
can
at
do a thought experiment and kind of blow this up. All
well,
right.
quick though, is he looking at the anchor text or the site?
Well, I don't know the specifics of the tool you're
Eric
talking.
Landry's tool.
Yeah, I don't know it well enough to speak to it, so I wouldn't want to talk bad of it. But
No,
here's
it's not bad. I'm just curious. What is he looking at the anchor text? Because I'm seeing it's working, and I'm wondering, is he looking at the anchor text for the topic or is it the site topic?
I've seen two bodies of actual research. So single variable testing conducted multiple times and peer reviewed. One of which was from Clint Butler out of SIA.
Great
And
time.
he found that the anchor text, the actual words that are in the links linking back to your page, were having strong positive effects on ranking for those keywords. So he likes to make sure that the anchor text is properly tuned. The other body of research I saw was from Lee Witcher, and he found that the relevancy of the linking page tends to add an effect as well, irrespective of what the anchor text is. So it appears that relevant anchor text or links from relevant pages have some effect. Now, there's debate between those two right now about who's more right. And I think it's entirely possible that both
Well,
could be right.
yeah, that's what I was
Um,
thinking.
yeah, so it's one of those things where I think you want to be mindful, but let's blow up the whole premise. All right. So now
All
I'm
right.
going to destroy everything I just built up for you. All
Okay.
right. Let's think about what happens when your website grows in PageRank, when your URL goes up Google's secret backlink ladder from PageRank 1 to PageRank 8. You know,
Mhm.
every number you go up, you're getting a power of 10 more backlinks. It's a logarithmic scale, so you're adding a zero. I had a PageRank 8. I built a PageRank 8 at one point in time, And that PageRank 8 had over 12 million backlinks. So you can work your way down. PageRank 7 will have 1.2 million backlinks. PageRank 6 will have 120,000 backlinks, and so on. And you can take it all the way down. Now, is that the exact coefficients Google uses? No, it's broad estimation. Now, what happens when you go from 10 backlinks to 50? Does your backlink profile matter? Maybe that seems relevant. But
Maybe.
when you go from 50 to 1,000, how relevant is the mix of where your links are coming from? Because I can tell you, when you get to 12 million backlinks, most of your backlinks are from irrelevant pages, garbagey zones. They're all over the place on what topics they're about and why they link to you. The more you climb the PageRank ladder, the more your backlink profile and your anchor text profile is just pure noise. So at the highest levels of this system, it can't be a strong factor. And I've seen it. It gets less and less critical at those highest levels.
Intriguing.
So I would say if it matters early in the journey and you eventually grow out of it.
So early on. And that's something personally that I've noticed is, I mean, the pages I didn't care, but what I've been doing is extending the anchor text and have been seeing great success. So like I've been taking the exact, the partial, the brand name, the LSI terms, like making it very long, very, very long, and getting a nice little, I'm seeing much better results this way. Like making like a sentence, literally.
Yeah. I remember the question you asked that we passed over. Have
Sure.
I added entities to a page and seen it make a boost?
That was early. Yeah.
Yeah. You just triggered my memory there. And the answer to that question is yes, I absolutely have. And it works remarkably well. The thing you have to understand is that Google is a broad match system. And once you have a page that is ranking well, you can play the broad match game, which is a lot of fun and it works fantastically. So,
Absolutely.
what happens was there's this online retailer and he was selling, let's say wireless Xbox headsets. Okay.
Okay.
And so I went into his page as an experiment, real store,
Are you
real
talking about my
keyword.
page?
Was that your page? I've had a few.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a few sites that do that. I'm wondering if you're like talking about mine.
I might have. I believe I ran this experiment on 4 or 5 different retailers in the same niche.
Wireless headphones and gaming headphones,
All
gaming
right.
headsets.
You want me to use a different keyword? I can
No,
do
no,
it.
no. It's cool. This
Okay.
is more relevant for me. No, it's good.
All right. What ends up happening is that if you already rank fairly well and you expand the keywords on your page, you pick up more broad match traffic, relevant broad match traffic. So when you add these entities and you don't necessarily see a ranking boost. What you see is a boost in organic traffic to the page, which is almost better than a ranking boost. It's definitely more money to a retail business. And so what we ended up doing was seeing how far can we push it. So for that wireless Xbox headset uh, page, we would put on things like the best wireless headset for Minecraft, the best wireless headset for Call of Duty, the best wireless headset
Yeah.
for Fortnite. And we had just run the list of closely related things that the store page would never ever target. And all we did was put those words in a hidden div on the product page. It wasn't even visible to customers. And it's like overnight it just grew the traffic to the page. Just out of nowhere, they started picking up hits on those keywords. And so yeah, you should absolutely do it. Now the problem is the second part of that test, we decided to see how far can we could we verge off of the path? How far could we get from that primary topic and still see this effect? And the answer was not far. You have to be closely related to the term you generally rank best for. And so when we got to, unique Xbox gift ideas, we couldn't win those that
Too
way.
far away.
But as long as we stayed close to what the offering was and what the topic was, adding more entities and keywords like that just picked more broad match organic traffic. And so I highly recommend that you make sure that relevant terms like that are on all your product pages. Now, and again, you won't see a ranking boost. You have to be watching your organic traffic closely. You'll see a boost in organic traffic when you do it right.
Beautiful thing. Absolutely. So I want to be respectful of Ted's time here and to the audience. So if you don't mind, for the last, I think you have 6 minutes left technically, because you said we had an hour
We can
and it
go
took me
15 if you need it.
All right. So what I'll do is we'll do a lightning round and I'll try to get through these questions that are in the comments. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. And then that way I could touch everybody. Well, that didn't sound right. You know what I mean? Get everybody. So the very first one, we'll start with this one. Do they come up? Oh, good. Cool, man. Okay. Michael, good to see you. Andre from the SEO video show. Good guy. Great guy. Nice guy. Beautiful show, too. Spartan Pest Control. Hey, Chris, what's your thought of Duda having issues with? I like Duda. Duda's a great tool. I use it on my own site, but there's a lot of options. I like Bootstrap better. I don't like WordPress at all. What tool do you use to see if your website has duplicate content? Duplicate content. I use quotation marks. So just to figure, yeah.
I let Google tell me. They're
Yes.
pretty good at it. So if you go and find a very specific phrase on the page you're concerned about, get about 7-8 words that are unique to that page, and search for it in quotes on Google, and right after it say minus site colon in your domain name. It'll exclude any matches on your website, and it'll tell you if that content is duplicated on other domains or other websites. If you then switch it over to, instead of minus site, you just say site in your domain name, then you'll only look for occurrences of that phrase on your website. And at that point, the duplication filter is usually off in the results, so you'll see all the pages that are bringing it up. So, you could use those types of operators to diagnose it.
That's interesting. I showed something similar, but to find links. Like I did the website in the quotes, and then I did minus the site name to figure out. That's cool. I like that. I like that. That's a good idea, Ted. That's good. Better than what I was doing it for. Moving into the next person, Vicky. How can you rank a house? That's too broad, my friend. Vicky, I love you, but that's just way too broad. We only have 10 minutes, 6 minutes. I want to know SEO video show. We're getting to it. The next one is from Michael. I want to know how to climb the corporate ladder. Well, luckily, if you joined us late, it's in the beginning of the show. Ted went over that quite extensively. G-Man, Ted and Chris, nice to see you. Great to see you, G-Man. Michael, really, really right. Okay. I'm not looking. I guess maybe I should look at them before I click them. I'm just going to click them. So Bander Dash says, I have a subdomain with 50K pages of duplicate content. Does not rank well, but has 20,000. Should I dump it or keep it? Having WordPress scaling problems. How can I? So he has a bunch of duplicate pages that don't rank well. Would you dump them?
They might be doing work. That one you have to look at more closely before making a judgment call, because you could do a lot of harm cutting those out. So, I can't give you a definitive answer without looking closely at it. I don't want to cause harm. So
fair enough. No, here's a good one. I was going to talk about this, but are iframes as powerful as backlinks?
I believe Google claims they're the same, and it makes sense that they would be the same. It's just a different way of handling a link to a page.
And
Uh,
then, yep.
so, yeah, probably about the same.
And then this is one for me that was on my list that I just want to ask. I noticed myself. Do JavaScript redirects past link juice?
Well, they should. They should behave like a
If they're
regular
red.
redirect. The problem is they won't if Google isn't doing rendered indexing, and whenever Google does a major update, they suspend rendered indexing. So if Google isn't rendering the pages, that JavaScript will never run. And it turns out that the amount of time that Google has rendered indexing offline is about 25% of the year. So if you build that as the way your SEO works, you can expect your SEO to fail you about 25% of the year.
That's almost unacceptable. Jose, good to see you, Jose. He says this is amazing. Thanks for coming on, Jose. Good guys, nice guy. Thomas the Train Toys, how hard is it to get a service-based business power washing to have a DA above 20? I personally don't. I wouldn't focus on a third-party metric, but Ted, do you have another? Do you worry about third-party metrics or not really?
Not really. You know, a good link is so hard to come by. I'm almost never gonna say no. And so, you know, the key thing to note is that for a medium level term, you know, top SEOs can typically rank page one for those, and you know, 5 weeks to 5 months on that order of time. I've seen it, I've done it, you know. So how hard is it? You know, with the right SEO, it's 2 months of their service.
Fair enough. Facebook user, there's no name. Mr. Toby Binder is told that shows duplicate content on your site. We mentioned that already. We're using Google with advanced search operators. Facebook test and measure stuff comes back. Can't argue with that. Okay. Sorry, I'm just clicking through here. Facebook user, very smart. Okay, thanks, guys. What's the best way? Oh, offsite testing. Um, do you is there a specific way that you go about offsite testing?
There are a few testers who I don't know if I should say this or not. It cracks me up. Um, I don't know how ethical some of the testers are when they do this, but what they do is they have a concept of something that they think is beneficial.
A donor?
So they go find somebody out on page 4 or 5 of Google, and they remotely SEO those off page factors to that business on page 4 or 5, assuming that if it doesn't work at all, that you know no harm was done, they were on page 4 or 5, and if it does work, then they ended up better than they were.
Give them a call. Hey, you know that?
um you know, probably the appropriate thing to do is just to have a collection of websites that don't quite rank. That's what I try to have in my testing. The other thing you can do is you can correlate websites that are doing it versus websites that don't do it, and see if there's something that comes out of the statistics. So you can find and measure as opposed to conducting the test as well. And if you do, you know, all those things, then you have the best body of evidence. You have the testimony of SEOs doing it. You have measurements from the field. You have your results from your test sites. You start to tell the same story, then how can you say no?
Absolutely. Yep. I like yeah, ethics is a fun, yeah. So SEO Andre asks, I still want to know how you climb the corporate ladder.
Well,
Um,
the short answer to that again is you have to have a safe place to fail. So I had the online retailer had 15 stores. I worked with their smallest one, not their biggest one. their smallest one that they didn't care about. They're practically ready to kill it. And so I would experiment like mad on that thing, and I'd only migrate the successes to the other 14. By the end of the year, I was one of the most important people in the company. And so if you test just at that level where I'm going to experiment in a safe place and then only propagate the successes to where they matter most, you're going to rise in importance very quickly. So that's how you do it.
Sounds awesome. Again, I'll try to get through these as fast as I can, guys and gals. So Michael asks, any advice on setting up site structure for a new site? Any uncommon tricks for structuring?
Well, first and foremost, I want you to be extremely strict about your URL format. I want you to plan it out. And not only do I want you to plan it out, I want you to go to 4 or 5 other platform technologies. So if you're looking at Shopify or WooCommerce or Magento, look at all of them and see what URL structures they support. So if you ever want to change platforms, you know you can do it without having to change your URLs. Because the worst thing you're ever going to do to your website is change your URLs. So, plan it out and be super strict about it. So that's the primary thing. The next thing, people worry about link geometry. Well, what if I did, 3 sub pages underneath each article and the 3
Oh
sub
my
pages
God.
cross-linked and went back up? I'm not going to say that doesn't work. There's plenty of testing out there saying that it does have an effect. And it makes sense that there would be a way to organize internal links for page rank effects. What I would argue is that hunting for that perfect link geometry is perhaps not the best use of your time. Does it work? Sure, let's say it does, but does it keep your margins high? Does it keep your time spent profitable in doing the work? So, unless you have it dialed in and you know the outcome, I would suggest that you maybe consider where you're going to get the best results for your time spent.
So you like keeping site structures flatter,
Um,
I should say, flatter.
well, there is a need to have some architecture. So you have a home page, you have categories, you have products. But it's been proven that the products that do the best organically have homepage links. So, I mean, you kind of know where your tree trunk is for authority. Now, if you wanted to think about, well, how can I diversify that in clever ways? Well, now you're starting to talk about let's link more to our categories, let's link more to our products. And I think those are great ideas. That's exactly how you do better. But in terms of, let's create this weird, 3-dimensional pyramid for each article, I worry that people spend a lot of time trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's too
And
much.
so it might work. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's probably not going to make you your best profit per hour.
I agree. I'm gonna breeze through. There's only 2 left here, and then we're gonna have to hit the road, my friends. This is one of the better streams. You and Holly are my 2 best streams ever, my friend.
Holly is awesome. I love
Oh
it.
yeah, definitely. So you guys are I think you beat her, Ted.
I don't know about that. Don't let her say that. My site will go down.
So this is a good little question here. This comes in from Ruben. Let's say RV. RV asks, "Hey Chris, Ted, what are the first steps to take when you notice a slight site-wide, I assume site-wide drop in organic?" I personally would just wait, but Ted, what do
Yeah,
you?
9 times out of 10, the right thing to do is nothing at all. If you change too much on your page, you'll trigger a Google dance, and then you have to wait a week or 2, and then you usually come right back to where you were, if not higher. If it was a Google HTML update to the search result formatting, your tools might be broken. So you need to go manually check and make sure it actually has gone down and not just your tools giving you a bad answer. And then if it's during an update, people often see, well, oh, an update kicked off. Well, Google is known for doing rollbacks. So they'll cause a whole lot of calamity, and then a week and a half later, they roll it all back. If you're reacting to it, that's like being in an earthquake and starting the reconstruction of the building while the earthquake is happening. So you kind of have to wait for the events to end and see where things land, and then you react once you know that it's official.
Fair enough. And then the last question, which this will be a great way to end. I'm going to slightly modify it from Flip. Great question, and this will be the last question. The 6 most impactful things, including like off page and on page. 6, if you had to give, or if you want to do more, but the 6, like, hey, you should go, besides like title, H1, URL, and increased density, besides those, what are the 6 most impactful things that you can do for that?
All right, all right. I'm gonna pull up a website called topseofactors.com where I'm publishing data on this stuff. And so up at the top of the list,
Are you sharing that?
I'm not sharing it. I'm just
Oh,
reading.
okay.
But I shared the domain name in case anybody wants to
Is
see
that
it.
yours?
Yes.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Topseofactors.com. And I'm sharing the anonymously shared factor data from all the Cora community there. So the
Wow,
top
that's
200
cool.
factors are listed. So up at the top, factor diversity. What is the number of different factors you're using? It's always been powerful since we thought to measure factor diversity. So definitely start there. There's a web spam algorithm called MC4 that targets people who don't have factor diversity. Number of entities used is an entity diversity factor. So we see diversity of things topping the charts. We see entities and we see keywords. Here, keywords means any of the variant keywords that Google is making bold when you search for your term. Lots of relevancy things. By the time we see backlinks, you're already down to number 19 and 20 in the list. But that's not to say that those are bad. Keep in mind that I'm measuring over 2,100 different factors to show you this list of 200 that are chart toppers. So if you're at the bottom of my 200 list, you're still near the top of my 2,100 list. So, keep those things in mind. Look at your diversity. We've all seen it before where people, that one guy who says, oh, I got some backlinks and I went up. So I went and got 100 more backlinks and I went up higher. And so I went and got a few thousand backlinks. And whoa, I went to the top. So I went and got a few 100,000 backlinks and now my site's gone.
Yeah.
Well, what you've triggered there is an algorithm like MC4 that says if you're exploiting a minority of factors, that being a lack of diversity, then those things get ignored. And all that work is for nothing. And the way you dig yourself out of that hole, you diversify, you get more factors. Because if you exploit all factors, you just rank well.
That's it. Yeah. Awesome, Ted. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we could do this again.
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining me. And I'll see everyone in the next one. Ted, hopefully we can meet again, my friend.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
All right, brother. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Good night.